This is Sarah Squires with today's edition of WYO Today Newsroom. Today on the show, reporter Austin Beck-Doss sits down with Rene Schell and Daryl Lutz of Wyoming Game and Fish to talk about the upcoming season-setting meetings, along with all the behind-the-scenes action going on at Game and Fish. Here's Austin Beck-Doss with the story.
All right, Austin Beck-Doss here, community features reporter for the Lander Journal and Riverton Ranger. I'm here today with Daryl Lutz and Rene Schell of the Wyoming Game and Fish. How are you both doing this afternoon?
Doing great.
Yeah, doing great, Austin.
Good. Well, happy to have you here with me. And we have a couple of interesting topics and also upcoming events that folks around Fremont County should certainly be aware of. Let's start off with the hunting season setting meetings. I know those are something that happen around this time of year every year, and there are several of them in Fremont County later this month.
Yeah, you're right. We do this every year as a part of our process, and our folks internally have been busy deliberating and putting drafts together of what their proposals are anyway for seasons, and then they come out to the public at these meetings, and we'll give out those dates and times in a minute to further the discussion, get more feedback, because of course they've already even had feedback after hunting seasons when people fill out what is it called, Daryl?
It's called the Harvest Survey.
Harvest Survey, yep, exactly. Yep. So they look at those, all these things go in, and then of course our biologists and wardens as well survey in the air and on the ground, pronghorn, deer, elk, moose, etc., to get an idea of what the populations are looking like through kind of fall and into winter. And all of that information goes into this first draft proposal, Austin, and then we bring it out to the public. I'll give you those dates, and then I'll let Daryl talk just a little bit about some of the internal thoughts and discussions and what people might hear for their hunt areas for fall 2026. So all of our meetings are at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Du Bois will be March 19th. It's at the Headwaters Arts and Conference Center. The
Cool.
Rollins meeting, March 25th, and that'll be at the Carbon County Higher Education Center. Riverton, March 26th at the Fremont County Library, and Lander, March 31st at our Lander Game and Fish office. Again, all those at 6 p.m. And I will just say before I turn it over to Daryl that if you've never been to one of these meetings, or if you've been to all of these meetings in the past, please come. And even if you're just listening, even if you're learning, whether you've hunted for years or you're new to it, this is a great way to just start to learn and engage with our biologists and give feedback about what you're seeing in the field or what you'd like your seasons to look like. And I know internally we had a meeting yesterday where a lot of these season discussions were had, and so I'll let Daryl talk just a little bit about kind of our region and what to anticipate hearing at these meetings.
All right, great.
Yeah, so Austin, I think before I get started with what people might be interested in with regard to our hunting season proposals for this next fall, I just really want to stress that we really take public input seriously. We look for opportunities to adjust what we're recommending if it's in the wildlife's best interest and at the same time addresses a public concern. So
Sure.
I know oftentimes the public gets frustrated with us that we just don't listen, but it frankly isn't true. And really encourage people to come to these meetings or otherwise get engaged with giving us their thoughts on what our proposals are.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for that, Daryl. Sorry, I know you're going to continue. I just wanted to give you an opportunity here, and I imagine you're about to do this, but what exactly are the considerations that go into the recommendations that are presented at these meetings, and then how does the public feedback at the meetings continue to factor into that?
Well, yeah, good questions. And certainly we as Rene said, we have a whole lot of wildlife data, including harvest statistics, population size estimates, and other metrics like hunter satisfaction and hunter success and Other things that we use to gauge both the hunting experience, but also trends in population size. And so that all comes to bear when we consider what a hunting season recommendation or construct best looks like. And we do that, primarily in the best interest, of course, with the resource that we're charged with managing, and that means deer, elk, sheep, moose, and of course antelope, and it extends to migratory birds like ducks and geese, and of course sage grouse and mountain grouse and everything else that we like to pursue and with hunting.
Yeah.
So we bring all that to bear, and we develop those recommendations. We are mandated by our processes to manage populations to a goal, or what we call an objective. So we look at what it takes to do that, whether that's increasing, for example, license issuance or season length, or decreasing those kinds of things, depending on where the population is relative to that objective.
Sure.
So we're looking at either allowing populations to grow, or perhaps stay where they're at, or perhaps we issue enough licenses and circumstances to decrease the population to what's appropriate,
right,
given habitat conditions and that population objective, and et cetera. And so what we do is we bring those proposals to the public after hundreds of hours of analyses and deliberation amongst ourselves to get folks thinking about it, and giving us then their feedback, what they saw like last fall, and the experience they had, and those kinds of things are important to us to consider as we hone in on that final recommendation for the commission to approve in April.
And we talk about things like, so there's the whole biological side, like Daryl was talking about, but then, I heard yesterday in the meeting things like access, if we increase licenses, will there be access for people? So and hunter crowding, like all of those sort of social and biological pieces come to play when these decisions are made too, which is really fascinating. What a neat job, and how considerate I feel like our folks are in that. And there's some things specific to this Lander region, which, goes all the way down to I-80 and Rollins, and then over to Shoshone, up to Du Bois, and back through Lander and Riverton and Fremont County. So I'd love for Daryl to hit on that a little bit.
So maybe it's appropriate to think about things by species.
Okay.
And perhaps start with antelope, or what we like to call pronghorn. With such an unprecedented and mild winter, certainly wildlife populations from really Lander and Riverton to Rollins have enjoyed a mild winter, to say the least.
Sure, yeah.
So survival of those animals should be quite good, should be pretty high. So I anticipate that we've seen or have experienced some population recovery in antelope populations. But at the same time, while we've had a mild winter, that also means it's been warm and dry. And so we have some concerns about what that may look like come the spring and summer. And so we have to be a little bit attentive to habitat conditions that they're likely going to be persisting on in the next few months, and perhaps over the next year.
Right.
So having said that, we are likely going to be proposing a few doe fawn licenses in the Lander and Riverton area. We are providing a little bit more hunting opportunity for males or bucks.
Okay.
Throughout the region, from Du Bois to Rollins, in anticipation of, again, that increased survival and concerns about habitat conditions going into the future.
Yeah, it's Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that just to pause you there, you can continue what you were saying, but it seems like so much work to take every species and so many different factors from the different seasons and what they've brought to us, and past seasons, and how those continue to affect the present and future, and interactions between species. It's just a lot to consider. And I'm just kind of fascinated in how all of that gets crunched into one single range of dates or a single number. It's just seems like a fine science that you all are tasked with.
Well, and let me just say that you bring up a point, and what it makes me think of is complexity. And while you say it's a fine science, and I appreciate that comment, it is a lot of science, but there's also a lot of art involved in wildlife management. In fact, we view wildlife management as the art and the science. So while we use the data and the science to the best of our ability, and to address the factors that you listed, there's also some experience and professional judgment that enters into that. It just isn't. It isn't just about the science. We have to kind of fill in those gaps where the science doesn't always chart a clear path for us. And
right.
Again, that's because Mother Nature is complex.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of variability in the environment. There's a lot of unknowns. We kind of have to look into a crystal ball into the future and things like that. So complexity comes to my mind when you made that comment.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. It's a combination of art and science. I'm also curious, and you may have been getting to this, but once there's a lot of considerations all factored together, and there's a piece of conclusive or conclusion rather that's ready to be brought to the public at these season-setting meetings, what then happens as far as public comment and how that continues to be factored in? Like maybe there are some examples of that. What has been said in the past at a meeting like this that stands out to you that to some degree allowed the department to go back to the drawing board on a season and make an adjustment or not, or maybe just, have some new information for future seasons?
Yeah, so that public information or public comment we've been taking, as Rene said, since last fall based on people's field experiences during the hunting season.
Right.
And then since then, we have gotten a lot, and we always do, in a lot of comments in conjunction with the harvest survey. So as the biologists and wardens are formulating their season recommendations, they're already incorporating that information.
I see.
In fact, we review comments from the harvest survey. We've been doing that over the past 6 weeks or so. And at the same time, those regulations are already out there for people to comment on.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a weekly update what comments have been submitted. So we review all of those. And then so that's while we're developing the recommendations. And then once those recommendations are put down on paper,
mm-hmm.
then we present them to the public formally at these meetings coming up, but also in draft regulation form so they can actually see what is being proposed for change.
Sure.
And then we do two things. One, we hold the meetings, and so we hear what people have to say. But most importantly is that we really like for people to give us their written comments so that we don't forget them. And then more importantly, so that the Game and Fish Commission can also see what people are saying and are concerned about as they make decisions to finalize those recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
But after those public meetings, we take that comment and I'm not going to say we go back to the drawing board, but we do assess what we've heard. And if there are some things that we need to consider, we do that before those season recommendations are finalized.
Yeah.
And submitted to the commission.
And then even when they're submitted at the commission, Austin, there's public comment there as well. And then things may get changed there. And so all of that before the commission will finally vote on them. And then the governor signs them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
Wow.
the final step after the commission.
Yeah.
So this,
Can't forget the governor.
I know it's a lot, and this goes into like something that we're gonna talk to people about is, moving to a 3-year season setting process. So we've been doing this every single year, but just as you've heard, the complexities to do this every year, and many other states do a multi-year season process, and it still would allow for, an emergency change in a season if some big weather event happened, or dramatic die-offs that we have seen in some recent winters. So it would still allow for that, but we will be starting to talk to people about this 3-year season setting process too. So that's something to, at meetings that we'll be talking about coming up.
Yeah, that's an interesting change. And again, based on what I've heard from both of you so far, just the sheer volume of work and collaborative effort that I imagine it takes to set these seasons on an annual basis seems immense, and perhaps, a longer term or a broader cycle of multiple years allows a little bit more kind of space and time to get that right on a longer deadline, but not that it would make it easier. I did want to circle back to the winter conditions we've been experiencing, or lack thereof. Are there specific species that, for better or worse, are anticipated to be especially impacted by the dry winter? Maybe, I don't know, I expect possible waterfowl implications with lesser bodies of water or things along those lines. What are we especially concerned about, in which species, if any?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty broad question, and I think what it boils down to is it's about water and it's about vegetation growth.
Mm-hmm.
So really, whether we're thinking about waterfowl and dense nesting cover, or appropriate nesting cover for sage grouse to enhance egg hatching and young survival, or a mule deer finding herself on transition ranges heading back towards her fawning habitats, and how much food is available to her as she prepares for birth and lactation is what we're thinking mostly about. And so again, it boils down to water and vegetation growth.
Yeah.
And I think it may be, thinking about the state on a larger than just this region, more than it might be species. It's going to be regionally.
Right.
Like I know here, it sounds like we've got, our snowpack is adequate, but I think down in Laramie, it's very much lacking. So I think that, rivers will be lower there, fish populations that'll be a hard summer. So I think there may be a little bit of that, Austin, where we see regional pockets of dryness.
Yeah, gosh, even in Fremont County, Du Bois is actually doing really quite well.
Yeah, interesting.
So, and they actually were buffered from the 22-23 winter. Conditions were actually fairly mild in Du Bois.
Wow.
While they were severe in the rest of Fremont County and the I-80 corridor. So even just within the county and state, we're going to see a lot of variability.
Yeah, it is fascinating for those of us, living in the basin, to feel like it must be this way everywhere, or that up higher it must also be equally dry. And from what I've learned, though it has been a quite dry winter on average overall, it's not exactly you can't really extend your experience where you live to the entire state or into other climates. Regions.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
One thing I want to mention, Austin, too, about public comment. So, of course, we want you to come to these meetings and engage with us there. And Daryl mentioned, please also write them down, and you can do that there at the meeting or online. So I don't want people to feel like if they haven't already submitted one or they can't come to the meeting, there's still plenty of time. You do have through April 1st at 5 p.m. and online right now our kind of first draft that will be updated that'll reflect kind of what people are seeing at public meetings. So on March 18th. So if you're not seeing changes yet that you anticipated to see, know that those will be online March 18th, and you can really kind of better see with red lines the changes we're talking about. And then for the past couple of years, each biologist has recorded and they're posted on our YouTube channel presentations that walk through kind of the presentations they give at the meetings. So again, if people can't make it, they're hearing the biologist talk about their district, talk about the species, and then folks can make really a very informed comment back to us, versus if you can't come to a meeting before, it was like, well, good luck, read the red lines and muddle through. So these videos, we're hoping will kind of bridge that gap. And last year we increased that visitation of those videos by 184% because we included a map that people can click on now. So you don't have to guess which biologist is for your area. Now you can click on a map this year. So
a hunt area map, Rene?
Yeah.
Hunt area
yep,
map?
it'll be a hunt area map.
So people that are interested in hunt area, whatever, can.
Yeah, and that, though, that won't be up until March 22nd.
Okay.
So just know, if folks would rather wait to gather all the information, please do so, but then please still comment as well.
All right, very good. And yeah, like you're saying, this is the time of year that for folks who like to hunt and fish to get their information together to start making plans for their season. So I think one more time, it'd be good to go through when exactly these season setting meetings in Lander, Riverton, and DuBois are. Would you just give me those dates and times one more time?
Yep, DuBois, March 19th at 6 p.m. at the headwaters. Riverton, March 26th at 6 p.m. at Fremont County Library. Lander, March 31st at 6 p.m. at our Lander Game and Fish office in the conference room next door.
Excellent. Well, I've got a couple other quick upcoming things to ask you both about, but is there anything more on the season setting meetings or the next 4 weeks or so that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure people know about?
I think that's it. We talked about a lot.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I'm also curious. I know there's a couple other related events that folks might be keen to learn more about. One of those is Mule Deer Days. I believe that's not in Fremont County, but is a draw for conservationists across the state.
Yeah, so we put this on in collaboration with Muley Fanatics. They really do the bulk of it, and it is in Rock Springs, March 13th through the 15th. So we would love for people, a day trip, from Fremont County down to Rock Springs is certainly reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
It's, what you would imagine sort of with the vendor show, but then what we've got are a lineup of seminars and discussions that I think it would be neat for people if they go on muledeerdays.org. They can see those seminars, and you go to events at the top. You can look at the list and attend some of those that might be interesting to them. There's usually a chronic wasting disease talk. I think we're showing a red desert film. We're showing a sheep a film, not a sheep. We are not showing a sheep. We are showing a film about sheep called Carrying Capacity, Managing for Resilience of Bighorn Sheep, and several other seminars. The director will be there to kick it off as well on Friday. So we really encourage people to come down, support mule deer, engage with us on kind of what's happening in the state with regards to mule deer.
Very cool. And I did also want to ask about that film, Carrying Capacity. I know that the Wyoming Game and Fish Department released that film in collaboration with some others, and that the film is available to view online. But I've also heard that there will be some in-person screening events across the state in the spring, in addition to the one you just mentioned. So are those on the calendar yet?
Yeah, that should be coming out very soon. We've sent out a press release, and then we're going to start, a Facebook post should come out soon, and some following advertising. The Rollins public meeting that we talked about on March 25th there will be a showing included of this film. It's very short, and then we'll have some discussion time. Daryl is famous. He's in the film. So Daryl will be at the meeting, but then you'll see him in the film too. And there are two herds of bighorn sheep featured in the film, and one is the Ferris Seminoe herd, which is outside of Rollins. So we really wanted to show that there. Another showing regionally will be in Du Bois on April 11th at the National Bighorn Sheep Center's annual meeting. So check out their webpage for more information on how to attend that, and everybody is welcome to attend that meeting. Yeah, and then the first showing of it is this weekend in Laramie, and again, it's going to travel the state. We're going to have a big showing in Jackson, a big showing in Cody with a panel and questions. So be looking for more information to come out about that. And our goal really is here just to engage people in the conversation about bighorn sheep in the state of Wyoming and what's going on, whether it's about these herds or their local herds.
All right, very cool. And I think I've just got one final question for the two of you, and that is something I've been wondering about personally, but I also hear it posed pretty often just out in the Fremont County community, and that is the sort of lingering toll of the 2022-2023 winter on a variety of species, but I know pronghorn in particular were hit quite hard. A few years later, for folks seeking an update on that, what do we know about how some species are still affected or bouncing back?
Yeah, so certainly that winter was and I like to describe that winter as epic. And I've been around long enough that I've seen some other pretty tough winters like in 83, 84, and 92, 93.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that winter was probably as hard a winter as I've ever seen. And as you said, pronghorn were hit really hard by that winter, especially along the I-80 corridor. Pronghorn and including around Riverton and Lander, pronghorn numbers are starting to recover some. We are seeing increased fawn productivity and survival. Mule deer, on the other hand, they too were affected, but mule deer are just really struggling, and it's not just in Wyoming.
Yeah.
It's throughout the West, and mule deer are just a different story. They're holding their own, but we certainly aren't seeing much population recovery.
Yeah.
The thing with winters like that is it's not just losing like the fawns that entered that winter. You actually lose about 3 age classes. You lose the fawns that were born the year before. Right. Then the fawns that should have been born the spring after that winter just are in such bad shape they just don't make it. Mm-hmm. And then of course you oftentimes lose a fair number of the adults as well. So those winters have a dramatic toll that sometimes it takes a while to recover from, and we're seeing pretty slow recovery, but at least some.
I think the blessings we got there were followed by 2 milder winters with wet springs and summers, so like some good vegetation. So that certainly couldn't have hurt following that winter.
Yeah, Mother Nature was nasty and then pretty nice to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I know we've had some relatively wet summers since then, which I expect, without being an expert, does sort of help to some degree with population health.
Yeah, it does, especially spring moisture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, all right.
Spring.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Daryl.
I just said well-timed spring moisture is a gift.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see if we're in for more of that in 2026.
Yeah, let's hope so.
All right, well, Rene Schell and Daryl Lutz from the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, I really appreciate your time. Always good to get an update from the department. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that y'all would like to share with listeners today?
Nothing I can think of. We hope to see people at some of these upcoming meetings or events.
All right. Yep. Sounds good. Once again, season-setting meetings coming up later this month in Du Bois, Lander, and Riverton, and of course also across the state. Thank you again both so much, and take care. Have a good day.
Thanks, Austin.
Thanks, Austin.
Today's show is brought to you by Porter's Mountain View Supply in Riverton. If you're looking for a better way to relax, especially after a long Wyoming day, stop by Porter's Mountain View Supply. They offer quality hot tubs built for comfort, durability, and year-round enjoyment. Whether you want a place to unwind, ease sore muscles, or spend time with family and friends, their team will help you find the right hot tub that fits your space and your lifestyle. Porter's Mountain View Supply is known for friendly, knowledgeable service. They take the time to answer your questions and help you understand the proper care and maintenance so you feel confident long after your purchase. Check out Porter's Mountain View Supply at 750 East Sunset Drive in Riverton, or give them a call at 307-856-6066.